Hey y'all, it's Meluna coming at you with some Omega energy. Did you know that the planets are sentient? Now, I'm saying that based on my understanding. I'm saying that based on my experience. But you can find something different. Does that really matter in the grander scheme of things? No, but everything is sentient. Everything has some level of sentience and spirit and soul and energy in it. Myself, my experience is when I see that there's some kind of movement within astrology of our specific galaxy. Because, see, I don't know about the other galaxies in that way. I'm more keenly aware of the galaxy we live in, and that's called the Milky Way. But the stars, the planets, all those things have some level of sentience, no different than the rocks on the ground and the grains of sand. Sentience, awareness. It's easy for us to believe that it has no sentience because we perceive sentience as understanding pain, understanding grief, understanding loss, all these things. And that is a very limited idea of what sentience is, the awareness that you are. Okay? And so just because it can't speak to you in the language that you understand doesn't mean that it doesn't have sentience. I ask you as a thought project or a thought exercise to perceive the planetary celestial bodies and whatnot out there in the sky that you can see through a telescope or with the naked eye from time to time. The moon is the closest. Perceive it as having sentience. Now, it's going to get a little deep, okay? Perceive it as not only having sentience, but also being its own body. And so if it has sentience and has its own body, imagine that they have their own jobs to do. And they've been out there a long time, so what kind of jobs could they possibly be doing? I've figured that one out, and I've decided to go along with it and just really think on it. Astrology and a lot of its tenets is based on that concept that they are sentient and intrinsically connected to us all down here. And the moon being no different. Scientifically, I've talked about it before, but I'll reiterate it here for this purpose. The moon doesn't impact our water and the waves and the structures. It also is known to make human beings behave differently when it's full than their normal set point. Whenever Mercury goes retrograde, a lot of things are disrupted and disturbed. And I tend to think that is because there's a time period in which we should reflect more and not move more and not be on the go so much. Reflect more on things we can do to create more balance within our personal existence and the existence of others. Okay? But that's what I choose to believe. You can choose to believe something else. But the only reason why these celestial bodies couldn't possibly care at all, and their energy would reflect down here at all, leads me to believe that they are sentience and they understand what their job is, and then they do their job. And there are set times in which their jobs are more illuminated, like Mercury, for example, when it's retrograde, or Saturn, for example, when it changes from one constellation to the next, or when it goes retrograde. Because whenever any of the celestial bodies out there go retrograde, something changes. We feel it. We may not understand it, and some people don't know nothing about astrology and know something going down. And then you go even more keenly and acutely and look at your birth chart and realize there are certain aspects and things it's time for me to learn for my soul's development, for my emotional and spiritual conscious awareness and development, and therefore possible evolution in this lifetime. That's going down because the constellation is sitting in. And that makes no less sense than believing in any dogmatic religion. No less sense. The difference is that you've been taught, whether you were in a church or not, at school, at home, on your money, all these things, to believe things a certain way. And so that makes more sense to you because it was normalized. That is the only difference. And also, like, there's scientific evidence that the celestial bodies do impact us down here, and there's very little scientific evidence of the latter. This is not me advocating for you not to believe in religion. The contrary. Because I think there is some level of balance and understanding that the allegorical stories in text and the knowledge therein could be beneficial to humanity in the ways that it can be beneficial to humanity, because there are some people who are not raping, who are not assaulting, excuse my language, because we can't say that R word no more, not assaulting, not pillaging, not stealing, all these things and killing because they're afraid or have some level of respect for the concept of God. And if that's what it takes for some of y'all not to do that, then go ahead and keep believing in religion if that's what it takes. Those who are more consciously aware of all things being sentient believe in a higher creator and a higher source. I know I do as well. The difference being is that we don't require that, and I'm going to speak for myself, right? I know I don't require punitive action as a fear in order for me to not do something. Okay? I just choose not to do it because I can understand from another person's perspective how that would feel if I did it. And then it make me feel some type of way. Not everybody got that level of like awareness. And that doesn't make them intrinsically bad people. It just means that they have yet to develop their conscious awareness or the evolutionary process, or they have and they've just chosen that. And they're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm okay with, doing this. And there are people like that. What exists in the light also exists in the darkness. I just need you to understand there's always two of everything. Nature doesn't make one of nothing. Think of one thing that is one of anything. You might say the sun. There's only one sun in this solar system, possibly. But do any of you, scientists, a regular human being of light, do y'all know what's behind the sun? Have you ever thought of anything being behind the sun? Who knows, there might be an opposite, an equal behind the sun. But you can't get to it because the sun will burn you up if you even got close. What's back there? See, I asked myself those kind of questions when I was very, very young. Knee-high to a flea. What's back there? And also, what is God? And if the word of God said there are no other gods, or there are no other gods before me, why did the text say that? And that's when you get down to the nitty-gritty and start to understand more things if you choose to and be so inclined like I did. But I've been studying this for a long time. So I asked the questions without the precursor of understanding that I would ever be doing this. See, me? I first thought I was going to be a doctor, but I tried out being a registered nurse first. I tried being a nurse first. Started out in phlebotomy, worked my way up to this, and this, only to find out my immune system did not super enjoy being in hospitals or around sick people. Now, it's since gotten better, but, that's laid plans. Then I was like, I'm going to be a psychologist then. And then I just love the art of counseling, the art form of actually getting into the nitty-gritty. Not testing things on folks, not trying to give them drugs or medications, but genuinely just sitting there with them and being with them and helping them in some kind of way see through the darkness, see through the emotions, see through grief, see through whatever it is that was concerning them. And I had a knack for it. I'm like, it's it. But then I got to a certain point where I was ready to just branch out on my own. And I'm saying, folk, I was telling you about, I've been telling you about, decided it was not for me to have because I talk too much. I say too much. I cuss too much. And I tell folks off too much. I don't think I do personally. I take ownership of the long-term ramifications of me speaking up. Somebody had to. One thing I can tell you about that situation is a lot of them folks who did that stuff, more people know they were doing that stuff. But did they know everything they did? No. But I'm okay with the result. There are times where it bothers me, but the best laid plans, But it gave me time to really develop my conscious awareness of myself and to heal some of my traumas. Because if I was delving deeper into the counseling profession and going through all the workshops and keeping the CEUs up and all the stuff, would I have learned all I've learned up until now? And the answer is no. And I'm grateful for that education, okay? Because now I can teach you. I can teach anybody who comes to me and help them develop that sense of self too. And maybe, just maybe, some of these traumas that are getting passed down generation to generation to generation can be healed through meditation, through exercise, through spiritual journeys that is very unique to the person and cannot be put on an insurance form and should not be put on an insurance form. You understand? So I'm more free to be an artiste and healing than I would have been if I was in a clinical setting. So it all figured itself out and worked out in the end, but that don't mean that it wasn't hard to get to this point. I look back on it like, child, how did I get through that? Sometimes I still don't know. I'm still grateful that I did. But that's the point I'm making to you. Some of the things that you believe are not necessarily wrong, and they're not necessarily right. What feels right to do for you that will not have an imbalancing energy that goes beyond you? If you'd be so inclined to be one of them folks that would like to live a life that has more balance in it, and live a life in which you create more balance for others if you choose to do that. Now, that is not a guarantee, nor is it a need for you or anybody else you know to do. But what I do here is try to figure out a way to create more balance, educate about how to create more balance, including educate you about astrology and different levels of how religion can work for you, not against you or anybody else. Let's see, what humans got, and this is my perception, your reality could be different. What humans got imbalanced, not necessarily wrong, but imbalanced, is that you forcing the narrative onto someone else. You forcing the ideas onto someone else. And then telling someone else their ideas is wrong based on your own reality. And when a lot of this stuff has everything to do with geographical location and not what is true and what isn't true. The point of religion was never to force a person to believe in one specific entity, but to aid the collective in understanding that the harm done to you and the harm done to others has ripple effects beyond that very moment that you're in. So choose the balance if you want to choose the balance. You come into this space, this temple, this church, etc., because you want to commune with your spirit and those others who want to commune with their spirit. And you want to learn, maybe, how to create more balance within yourself and others, while also doing harm to none if you can manage it. It is harmful. Now, this is facts. It is harmful to try to force somebody to believe what you believe. That is harmful. But you can say, hey, are you in distress? Would you like to know? Or would you like help with not being that way? This is a way you can live your life. If you're overweight or unhealthy physically and you want not to be that way, you go to a nutritionist. If you're an addict, you're going to go to a counselor, or you're going to go to some kind of religious spiritualist or religious person to get counseling through that. And you might have to go through a medical program to get clean and dry. But at no time should we as people, and again, I'm saying should, which is not the greatest word to use when you're trying to help people understand. I'm saying should in the sense of right, a balance versus imbalance. It is imbalance to try to force something upon someone. It is more balanced to give them the information and allow them to choose. Because at least you know, and they know they made a choice. And then tell them if they don't choose what you tell them, they're going to be damned. Well, between you, I, and the sky, that is not a choice. Because you never know if somebody's heart is pure in their intentions when they're only doing it so they don't get damned to hell. That creates imbalance. Because if a person is constantly fighting against what is perceived to be demons, and the only thing that's keeping them solid is the fear of the human concept of hell, then they're going to continue to fight them demons because they never healed what caused them in the first place. That's just something for you to think about. In order to truly heal, you must examine the self and examine the whys. Sometimes it's as simple as removing yourself from an environment that's causing the negative energies around you in the first place. Sometimes it's as simple as changing your behaviors, an example of the diet. If you know you want to be a healthy human being or healthier physically in this vessel, then I might not be able to go to these fast food restaurants like that no more. Because I'm gonna be honest, that's not really food, and we all have figured that out, but it's just easy, right? And a lot of things are easier. It is easier to be in these spiritual streets and being a hand puppet. And what I mean by that is, once we understood there were Elohim, once we understood there were other things in the ether, we also understood that we do certain things and we allow certain things, it will give us certain things. Think about the long-term ramifications of doing that, though. And the long-term ramifications of doing that is a mystery to you. It is easy to grab the candy. And grab the candy, many did. But see, when you that puppet like that, and for me, this is the way I perceive it. Again, I could be wrong. When something's got his hand shoved up your butt and puppeting your mouth so that you can get the most out of life. No matter how you have to cheat to do it, no matter how you have to lie to do it. It's going to give you everything that you desire. And then what? What's the long-term ramifications of that? Have you thought about it? I don't think a lot of people thought about that. I did. I really did. And it sucked to say, nah, I'm going to go ahead and respect the energy. I'm going to respect this as a part of life in general. I'm going to respect all of this. Because there is no inherent evil or inherent good. There's just balance and imbalance. And there's a reason why there is a creator. You don't have to believe in a creator, but even if you're a purely scientific mind, you have to marvel at the fact that things were created just so that it's got to be some kind of intelligence. But the biggest secret that ain't so secret that I'll tell y'all real quick is that every single human being is the human concept of God, or at least a part of it. And we're all tethered to the same source of energy, and all of us create the world in which we live. And if we can actually use that concept to treat each other as if we're looking at God, and that God is going to create something from that energy, we'd have a more balanced place all the time. For some reason, human beings they can do it, but they can't maintain it past a few thousand years. And so we play this dance, and we do this dance so that we can restructure, rebalance, and figure out a way so that we can do that a little bit more. By that I mean that if I leave this house right now and go to the grocery store, and it's a tired cashier, and I decide to give her what for and give her a hard time because it's something that's out of her control, she is now more tired, and it's going to create more negative effect inside of her potentially. And then she could go off on her coworker or one of her kids or her spouse when she goes home. See, as a God, you're creating. Being consciously aware of what you create and you care about that levels up your enlightenment and your ascension into the concept of heaven. See, heaven can be reached up here anytime. It's hard to maintain though, because we still live down here in these meat bags. We still got to take care of them, even though they're just meat bags. But if you understand that you are creating with every action, every word, every deed, and that you are also creating things in others to also create. And then if you perceive all those little creators as one big being, you have a better understanding of God. Y'all just fingers on one hand, hon. Including the things that are not in matter, that are in ether, that were created long before we were created as the first beings. Now, this is something you ain't got to believe in, but it's something that I'm studying and I understand a little bit more. And they would like very much to be in control down here. Everything has an ego. And every now and then, we do this dance or we need to balance things out because humans be humaning, and eventually they'll get so advanced that they forget the heart of things and they destroy everything and they just become mechanic and all this stuff. We've been advanced before. This ain't our first rodeo. That is the time in which things are able to come from one dimension, other dimensions to this dimension. But they can't live down here unless there's some vessels that like to be puppets, that are okay with being puppets. And then the ego has to do what the ego does, I suppose, because it makes them feel special. But the thing about that is, again, there is no inherent evil or good in that behavior unless you create things that create imbalance and you know that's what you're doing and you choose to do it, then that's up to you. I choose to create more balance. But that's just my choice. It don't make me no better than nobody else, because what exists in the light must also exist in the darkness. This one thing I do understand, and it's always an equal to every opposite. Always is. If I exist as one exactly like me that exists somewhere, I don't think I met him. I don't think so. But, and that could be just my ego talking. But I'm giving you a thought exercise. Imagine all things as sentient. Go to the macro. Imagine all things as sentient, and there's some things behind the sun. And then imagine all things that are sentient in the micro sense. And try, if you're choosing to hear my voice and hear me out, choose balance if you can choose it. And balance just means like, I'm not going to kick that dog because I wouldn't want to be kicked. Most people can make that decision. That one's easy. Unless you're some kind of sociopath. Okay? But also choose, I'm not going to do that thing because I wouldn't want that thing done to me. Period. Period. You don't have to get complex with your vibration from the energy you expel and the things you create, little G's. I say that's little G's to the big G, because I don't even know what a connector is. And when I say connector, I'm just saying all you fingers out there being connected to a body. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I didn't know what it is. Now I can know it is, and you cannot believe that I know it is. You don't have to know it is to be able to create balance though, darling. I happen to know this. I don't have the benefit of belief. Now, when I say the benefit of belief, I need you to understand me now. There was at one point I believed. Now I know. And from the point of when I believed to the point where I knew, that's a lot of shit I went through. And I had to prove myself the whole way up to that point. And when I say prove myself, I ain't know that's what I was doing, y'all. I'm gonna be honest and frank with you. I just know I just kept choosing balance whenever I could. Now, there's sometimes I chose the imbalance, and then I identified what that was. And then I sat down and healed myself. And then I identified what the problem was so I can solve it and use it as a teachable moment to anybody who want to hear me. And that can be true for you. Nobody is just lost. As long as you have breath in your body and you can say hi, or you can be alive enough in this corporal, this carnate matter, you have an opportunity to choose balance. or the opportunity to choose what's perceived to humans as good. There's nobody that's thrown away. You can choose it every day. Anyway, I hope I wasn't all over the place. Because sometimes I don't know, y'all. Sometimes I don't know. Because I'm an Aquarius and sometimes I'll be a little airy. I'll be up in the clouds and whatnot sometimes. But then sometimes I come back down here and be like, what's up? It depends on the day. Anyway, y'all got some questions, put them down there. If you got some questions and you don't want to put them down there because you're a little shy, that's okay too. You can email them to me. Anyway, y'all love.